gonna do the workshop in 3 parts. In the first part, we're gonna be focused mostly on VFX and how to build the portal effect, so like the swirl that opens and things like that. Then in the second part, I'm gonna look at the physics, how you can build those physics in coming out of the portal, and also just like reappearing constantly and disappearing constantly. And at the end, I'm going to focus on the hand gestures, and if I have time, I'll go into how to implement this, but because it's pretty straightforward, I'll not spend too much time on that section. You're going to start off with the VFX. So the first part that you're going to want to do is actually go to the asset library. And as I mentioned before, I used something called the Boyd's VFX. You're gonna want to take this and import it to your project. And yeah, it actually shares a lot of different nodes than the actual final VFX component that I have. So I think it's an easier way to get used and familiar with VFX editor. So once that's imported, so I do recommend switching the preview and going into the environment, interactive environment, and then you're gonna drag the prefab for the Boyd's VFX into your objects. So as you can see, you're gonna immediately be met with like the VFX. And also, if you don't know, if you want to move around in this window, you can use the WASD keys, which allows you to kind of move back and forth. And so once you're here, you're gonna want to actually open the VFX asset. And to do that, you're gonna click on the component, the Boyd's VFX here, and you wanna do a right click, and you can do directly open an editor. So for me, my editor looks really weird because the picture is like all blown up on the screen. But yours should look a little bit like this. Let me know if you have any problems and it doesn't show up. But you can also right click and highlight to find your VFX assets in your resources window here. So once you're in here, there's actually a lot of things we're not gonna need for this tutorial. So you're gonna wanna remove basically a bunch of different components. So for instance, but if you see this animate position along the x-axis, you're gonna wanna remove that because we don't need it. So yeah, there's a lot of different things you wanna remove. So this little node here as well, you can remove it. This we're gonna keep for now, but you're also gonna wanna remove in the output, because basically the way the VFX component works is that it has an output, has an update, and a spawn particle. And when you go to the output here, as you can see in the preview window right now, when we move back, the VFX particles fade and they turn into like this fog. So we're gonna wanna get rid of this pixel fog here. And to get rid of it, you're just gonna take the particle color here and drag it directly to the discard node. So I'm sorry, this is like super zoomed in, but basically you just wanna get rid of the pixel fog and the fog value here. So yeah, I wish I could show this a bit better. If you've deleted these different components, it should look a little bit like this. And so because there's a lot of different forces still interacting on the VFX here, we're actually gonna want to remove a few of those. So we're gonna start off by going into the spawn node. So it's this one, the one at the top of the VFX component. And what you're gonna wanna do is actually delete this add force. So it says attract repel. So yeah, now that we're recording, you're gonna take this add force here in the spawn particle, and we're just gonna delete that. So actually, fun little shortcut, if you use the back key, you can delete a node immediately. And already you can see in the preview window, the VFX looks very different, also very weird, and that's perfectly normal. We just deleted the attract repel. And then when we're looking at the update particle here, we want to keep the attract repel, but we're gonna want to put the forces down a little bit on this, on this component right here. And to do that, we're just gonna open this window, and we're gonna reduce the strength. So you can just, I don't know if you see it by default, but there's this little arrow on the right. You want to click on that, and then you're gonna reduce the strength for the X and Y axes to 10, and then for the Z axis, we're gonna actually keep it, or we're gonna push it to 100. So that's gonna put a force basically that's going outwards towards you. And to create actually the donut effect, we're gonna go back here to the spawn particle, and the first thing we're gonna want to do is reduce the spawn rate and put that to around 3000, because right now we have a lot of particles and we want to make it a little bit lighter. And we're also gonna reduce the maximum particle life to around 3 seconds. So this is all, like, for this VFX and in general with VFX, it's like very hacky. Like, there's no science to it. You just kind of have to try numbers out and see what works. But for this, the most important part now is going to be to put in a torus spawner. So the torus is the shape of the donut that I was explaining a bit earlier. And we can actually do that. So it's cropping the top here. But if you do an add, you can look for torus, and you do a set position volume right here. While we're here, you can also delete the set position volume for the cube, because we don't need that one anymore. So you can just remove this one. And already you can see that it looks a little bit more like a donut, but it's still very, there's still a lot of forces happening, and that's because the radius of the donut is still very, very small. So as you can see, when I click on the node, there's different options, such as the inner radius, the outer radius, and things like that. And so for this one, what you're gonna wanna do is make the outer radius much bigger. So we're gonna put it at 200. And once you do that, as you can see on the preview window, like, all the particles disappeared. And that's because you have to move back a little bit. And once you move back with the S key, you can actually see there's like a kind of donut of particles that is very, very faint. And you can see it kind of, it's probably really hard to see on the screen. But you have this donut fill right here. And yeah, just let me know if you're stuck. Yeah?
For us, the radius of the donut is like super thick. Did you do the lifetime?
Yeah, so I changed the spawn rate to 3000 because right now, like, it doesn't need by default the 10,000 particles. It's a good call. And I also set it to 3 seconds for the max particle life because we want actually the particles to fade out quite quickly for this effect.
Got it.
Cool. Yeah, and it might still look a bit different for your screen. And I think that's because when you go in the update particle, I still have, yeah, the forces might be a little different. So you might want to double check if you have the same, no, that's, should open. Yeah, so this is the different forces that I currently have. So it might be a little different for you. And yeah, just so we're on the same page, for the spawn, mine currently looks like this. So the inner radius is 5, the outer radius is 200, and all of these are by default like this. And let me check. Yeah, on here, there's on the output, so the final of these like 3 nodes, you have something called the align to camera. And this actually, if you click on it, on the top part actually, it's gonna open this window, and we're gonna want to change that to 0.1. And the align to camera, what it does is that it basically creates a stretch effect on the particles. And the higher the number is, the more the particles are gonna look stretched and warped. So I'm gonna set that to 0.1. And that's going to make the particles seem even smaller. So I'm gonna just slide this window back, and from there what I'm gonna do is that I'm actually gonna come back to the update particle here, which is the middle section, and in here you'll see there's an input called set size. Let me know if you see it. Once you have the set size here, you're going to want to follow the line, so the one that comes in, the input size.x, you're going to want to follow it, and you'll arrive to this node that says clamp. And on the clamp node, you're going to want to click on it, and to actually view the settings for it, because right now I can't change them from here, you're going to want to click on this arrow, and this actually is going to control the minimum and the maximum size of your particles. And right now they're really small, like they're at 0.4 and 1. So we're going to want to put this between, let's say, 5 and 10. Kind of eyeballing this because, yeah, I don't know exactly how it's going to look. But this also, like the values that you put in don't have to be exactly the same as mine. I think it's also like a kind of personal preference. Like if you want, your portal to look a bit more dense, you can put these higher. It really depends on the desired look that you're gonna want to get. So yeah, for this example, I think I'm gonna put mine between 7 and 12. Like there's no science for this. It's just it looks good. And then what you're going to want to do is that you're going to want to refollow that line and come back to the update particle. And on here, we're going to add another force by doing the add button at the bottom. And we're going to type force here. And you're going to want to look for something called vortex, which you'll see right here. And when you double click on it, it's going to load, and you're going to get something that appears in your update window at the bottom. So as you can see here, you get this vortex node, and that is basically going to add also a kind of spiral and twirling effect to your portal. So as you can see, if I click on this and it opens this window, let's say if I put a force of like 400, that does nothing. Okay, wait. I think I need to drag it at the top here. So to drag, I don't know if you know, but to drag a node, you actually want to select it at the top, like on the color bar here, and you want to push it higher. So I'm going to put it right at the top here. Okay, it still does nothing. Hold on. Oh yeah, the fall off. Yeah, so to actually activate the vortex force, you need to, you see this use fall off input? You're going to want to put that to 0. So it's like a slider, as you can see, and it goes from 1 to 0. And when it's at 1, it doesn't work right now. And when you put it to 0, the vortex effect starts. So you get this kind of spirally effect. And because mine is at 400, it's really intense. So we're going to want to lower it down a little bit. And I think I'm going to put it at, let's say, 40 or something. Wait, let me check. 40 is a bit much, so let's put 20. Yeah, this is just eyeballing a little bit. So right now, you should have something like this. Let me know if you don't. I'll be happy to help out a little. But for now, this is kind of how the portal should look. And if it doesn't look exactly the same, that also isn't a problem, because it's just tweaking those little values is something that you can take the time to do, depending on what kind of effect you're looking for. But what we're going to want to do now is actually, I'm going to show you how I made the effect of the portal kind of opening like a swirl. And this can actually be done in a few different ways, but I'm gonna for now show like a really simple way, and you want to actually go back to your spawn particle node here, the first giant node. And once you're here, you're gonna take your cursor in the emptiness or here, and you can do a right click, or you can also click on the plus here, the plus that should be at the top left. Once you're there, you're gonna look for something called a construct vector. So you're gonna type construct vector, get that in there, and it should look something like this. Right now it's configured for 4 inputs, but we're only going to want 2 because we want to hook it to this one, to something called the arc angles. And maybe, I'm not sure, let me see, if I drag this here, okay, yeah. You're going to want to drag the construct vector to the arc angles, but we're also going to want to change the amount of inputs that are currently on here. So I'm going to select the construct vector and click on the arrow here, and you see you have these 4 dimensions. So you're gonna see input free, and you want to basically disable it. And once that's done, you should get only 1 input. No, you should get 2 inputs, but it should be an X, Y. And from that, you're then gonna do another right click, add a node, and you're going to look for something called elapsed time. So elapsed time basically is the amount of time that your effect has been active, and it's a continuous value, so it's in seconds, I believe. And once you import that, you're actually going to tie the X here. So let me make this bigger. You're going to tie this, put it onto the construct vector. And as you can see now in your preview window, you should get something a little strange. It's going to look like only a small part of the portal is generating, and that's perfectly normal. So what you want to do here is that you want to click on the elapsed time, open this little window like we've been doing before, and put a multiplier. And for this, I think we can do a multiplier of 80. And you're going to see if you refresh your preview window, it's actually going to make the portal open, similar to how it's opening in the effect. So the setup for this looks like that. Nice. It works? Sweet. Okay, cool. So yeah, it should create that opening effect. But this is like a bit of a cheap method, because if you open the lens and you don't want the portal to open immediately, this is not going to work, because the elapsed time, it's not when the VFX component is created, it's when the the lens has started. So there's actually another way of doing this, which we might go into a bit later, but for now we just have this cyclic opening that looks a little something like this. So now what we're going to want to do is actually do some final touches to the current color of the portal. So we're gonna go to the middle section, the update particle, and here we're just gonna remove. I think we can just remove this modify attribute set color right here, which is what currently gives the portal its multicolor thing. That was coming from the Boyd's VFX. So we're just going to want to disable this, or you can actually delete it completely, because we don't need it anymore for this project. Now we could actually get the glow into the project to create kind of the glow effect of how the portal appears on the preview that I had. And for that, we're actually going to use, the asset that Max made, a little shout out, which is also available on the asset library. And for that, you're going to look for something called cinematic glow. So you want to open your asset library again and look for the cinematic glow asset. And once you have that, you want to import it into your project. Uh-oh, okay, it's not happy. Yeah, and you should get an error, which is perfectly normal. So once that's in there, what I like to do, a little good practice, is to put it at the top of the object panel, because scripts tend to initialize from like top to bottom in the object scene. And so from that, we're going to get an error, and that's because when you see when you click on the cinematic glow, there's actually a few things missing here. So we're going to want to put our current camera here as the main camera, and so you can just drag and drop it into there. And we're also missing a composite target for this, and a way to fix this is actually to go into your resources panel and add, by clicking the plus here, a render target. So you want to look for a render target like this, and you're going to do plus and import it here. And then once you have your render target, you can rename it to make it a bit easier. So we're going to call it render target plus glow, and that should allow you to basically display the glow directly on the portal. I hope that you're not getting any issues with the glow shader. If you have a Windows laptop, you should already be able to see, once you imported the glow, there's actually some objects here, but they're not glowing right now because we just need to finish the setup. But if you go back to your cinematic glow asset here, you're gonna put the composite target as the render target plus glow we just created. And as you can see, we're not getting the error message that you used to see before. And from there, you're going to want to go to the scene config, which is right here. It's right next to the resources. And you're going to change your capture and live target to the render target plus glow. So if I click on that, then as you can see, now the objects that I had in the center, they're glowing. And you want to also do your live target as a render target plus glow. So right now we have a pretty strong glow effect on the middle, but it isn't applied to the portal. So if you want to put this effect on the portal, you're going to want to go back to the VFX editor. You can actually delete the example scene objects here because we don't need those. But we're going to add the glow to the portal also, because right now it isn't glowing. And to do that, we're going to change the input here for the output quad. So you see you have this thing called set color. So it's the bottom thing in your VFX editor. So the bottom box that says output quad. And you have, this node called set color. You want to open that node with the arrow on the side, and you want to add a second target to your set color. And once that's done, you should see that already the portal is glowing, and if it's a little like mine, it should be very saturated. So this is actually something that we can tweak in the settings for the glow, sorry. And you can find the settings by going into the resources and then going down cinematic glow. And then you should have in system, you should have the cinematic glow renderer. And once you click on that material, you'll see that it has a bunch of controls for your glow. So what we want to do here is, well, you can see that the haze is really strong. So I can lower that with this slider. So you can lower it to whatever value you want. It really depends what kind of effect you're looking for. But you can also change the blur, which can give like this really magical like halo effect, or you can lower it to make the particles pop out more. And you can also control the luminance, which controls kind of all of these things together. So that should be in your resources. So for mine, I'm just gonna lower the blur a little bit and keep the haze a little low. And also, if you want to change the color of the portal, you can actually set a color as an input here. So I'm just going to drag, so you can see you can click on the color input here. I'm going to drag it here, and I'm going to look for a color parameter. So you'll see there's one here, and once you click on it, you should get a new parameter that's going to show up there. So we're just going to call this for now the glow color. And then what you want to do is that you're going to click on the component for the VFX, and you're going to go to the inspector right here and do highlight to find your Boyd's VFX. And from here, you're able to control basically the color of your portal. So for instance, you can make it really red or blue or purple, but here I'm going to make it some kind of orangey color. So you kind of have to, fine tune this depending on your location as well, like what you think is going to look nice and things like that. But I like to make it not too colorful and just keep it in between. Okay, that's weird. And yeah, from there you can change how intense the opacity is and things like that. But I'm just going to keep it like this. So now if you see when you reload your portal, you should see it appear like this, and then it will kind of progressively come in. So then there's a bunch of little other tweaks we can do to the effect. Like this portal looks a bit different from the one I made in my other video, but it's just a matter of kind of shifting the forces around and just figuring out what look you want to have for your experience. What we can do now, now that this is done, is actually go back to your scene. So as you can see, when you click, so you have all these little different scenes up top, but when you click on your scene right now, the only thing that is visible is your is the feet tracking that I already have built in there. But you can actually you're going to want to enable the prefab scene object right here. So click on prefabs and hit enable, and you should all have already all of the different assets that I had in my project. What you should see in here is that you have all of your different elements of furniture, and what we're going to want to do is actually give them physics, because right now the setup has a ground plane, which you can see has a collider on it, and we're going to want to basically make that these objects can fall into that plane and interact with the environment. So to do that, it's actually really easy. What you want to do is add a component. So for instance, let's select the leather sofa because it's the biggest one. We're going to want to add a component and look for the body, the physics body component. So once that's added, immediately you should see that the couch falls in the preview. And so you can actually, so right now it is set as a box collider. But what we're going to want to do is that this doesn't really fit the way that we want our, our collider to be. So you can see like the couch is kind of hovering above the ground because it's way off track. And to do that, we're actually going to want to use a custom mesh for the physics. So you're going to select the shape type and hit mesh. And then you're going to want to look for the mesh of the couch. So we can do that by clicking the mesh input here and look into the prefabs imported, look into the leather couch, and there you should have the mesh for the sofa. So once you click OK, you should see that you have a very detailed collider version of the couch, which has this like pretty cool looking collider effect on it. And the problem now is if you refresh your window, you're going to see that the couch doesn't have any body physics to it. And to do that, you're actually going to want to click this convex button. So what the convex does basically is that it makes like low poly collider mesh. So something that is like super easy for an engine to work with. And it's going to make your collider for the couch as close to the actual physical shape of the couch as possible. And so then if you want to get your other objects to have colliders, it's basically, rinse and repeat. So a really like quick thing you can do is just copy the physics body component here and then just paste it here, but swap out the mesh. So yeah, this takes like a minute to do. So if you want to do it now, it's pretty straightforward. So I'm gonna do the lamp. The lamp's called the banker lamp. You want to import that. So then you can see one by one the objects should fall on the ground. So I'm gonna do also the dining stool and look for the dining stool mesh, then the dining chair. Do that as well. So one by one you should be giving physics to all of your different objects. There's also a mug in there. So we're gonna want to get the mug in, and let me know if you have any problems with this.
Not a problem, but just a tip. It's possible to select all your assets at the same time. I paste the body, the physics body, and it will copy on every mesh at the same time.
Okay, nice. Didn't know that.
Good time.
Yeah, nice tip. So there we go, and I'll also do the pillow, and then get the pillow mesh in there. And for the table is actually the only one that's a little weird because of the way that it's set up. It's set up in multiple meshes. So what we're gonna want to do is just get the top surface of the table. So you're gonna select the table body here, put the physics component, and then look for the wood table, and then select, I believe, it's too small here, I can't see. I believe it's object 4, and that's going to be the most representative mesh of the table. So now if I walk around, you should be able to see that all the objects have kind of fallen to the ground. Yeah. Oh, the table falls through the floor. It's not ideal. Wait a second. It might be a different mesh for the table. Yeah, so actually you're just gonna want to use a cube for the table. So as a mesh, we're gonna do a shape type and do a box, and then fit it to the visual, and that should work. I forgot there's no good mesh for it. Why is it falling through the ground? Oh well. I guess we won't be using the table. I forgot what collider I used for it, but that's fine. So now we should have all of these objects, and what we're gonna want to do is just save them as prefabs. So to do that, you're just gonna, I think we can, I'm gonna get rid of the table for now, but I think we can select all of them and do save as prefab. So you're gonna just, click the bottom one, shift click the top one, all of your objects should be selected, and you're gonna click save as prefab. Oh, that only does one. Okay, that's interesting. So you're gonna do them one by one then, and save them all as prefabs. No shortcut for that one. And then you should have them in your resources, because that's what saving as a prefab does. And then I recommend, because we already have a lot of things going on, I recommend just doing, selecting them, and you want to press Command G, which creates a group, which is basically a folder. And once you do that, you're gonna just call this, for instance, prefabs, final, something like that. Okay, there's already a folder called like that, but yeah. You're gonna want to put them as just like a group. Makes things easier visually. So once that's done, I think we're gonna do the script integration to make the objects actually throw out of, jump out of your portal. And so for this, it's pretty straightforward. I actually made already like a kind of outline for what that's going to look like, and it's you can actually find it on the object throwing script here. So what you want to do first is that you're going to actually activate the object's throwing script right here, and we're going to start by adding all the prefabs for the objects in the script component. So right here you have the option to add values. So we're going to add, I think we have 6 objects, and we're just going to add them one by one here, all the prefabs, directly as an input for the script. So I'm going to just do them one by one here. I mean, there's other ways to add prefabs in here, but I think it's like the most straightforward. And then you're going to want to actually open the script for throwing objects. So if you go in your scripts folder, you should see it right there, and you can open the thrower. So once that is done, you should see that there's already a few outlines of things to do. But the first thing we're actually going to want to do is build the mechanism for the prefab instantiation, and actually apply like this little push effect that you can see on every piece of furniture. So to do that, we're gonna create a variable. So you want to start at the bottom, which is a little counterintuitive, but you're gonna actually want to start by creating a variable for every prefab. So I'm just gonna call this instanced object. So that's the name of the objects that's going to be created, and we're going to do prefab dot instantiate, and this is where I might need to use my little cheat scripts because I can't remember what I did, but you're going to want to attach that to the spawner scene object. So the spawner scene object is basically the center of the portal here. If we do that little link here, that should allow us to basically have the object come out from that location. I like to just do Command S to verify if there's any errors, but let me just check my little cheat sheet because I forgot what I did here. Yes, so then what we're going to want to do is get the components for the physics on each object. So to do that, we're going to do a new variable and call it the body component. So the body component is the component that we attached to every object, and we're going to do dot get component here. No, actually, my bad. We're going to do body component is equals to instanced object dot get component, and then we're going to be looking for, so once I did the get components, you want to put some quotation marks, and then you're going to look for a physics.body component, which you should see here pop up as a suggestion. Yeah, once you have that, you're just going to want to take the body components and actually, what do we want to do? Yeah, do a dot add force to your body components, and because it's in a vec-free environment, you're going to want to create a new vector, and then this is where you can kind of set the direction of your force. So we're gonna, let's say, I think I had put 0 for x, 50,000 for y, and then 90,000 for z. And this was kind of also trial and error, because I just noticed this was kind of the right amount of force that worked for this. And then we're going to want to add the kind of impulse, the kind of force that it's going to be. So for this, it's actually an impulse force. So you want to do physics.force mode, and then we're going to do dot impulse. So you have different kinds of forces that you can do here, but we want it to actually be a spontaneous force once the object appears. And for that should be good. And that should be the start of our component here. Because we created an array of all of our different prefabs, we actually want to go to this function that I made above. And in there, we're going to create a for loop that selects every object and that applies this instantiation to the prefabs, basically. So we do a for loop above, and we'll create a variable called I, which is equals to 0. Then we want to do I is inferior or equal, and then we're going to actually get the objects the objects array, sorry, and we're going to put it right here. So we're going to do script.objects.length, and this should allow us to get the length of this makes it dynamic. So if you're going to add more prefabs, you can just keep this script and it should work. And then I think I have to do -1 here. I'm not sure, but I think that's what I had last time, and that worked out. Yeah. And then we're just gonna do I++ here. So for making this I value iterate on every loop, every for loop. And in here, what you're gonna want to do is actually call the create objects from prefab function that's right here. And as an input, we're actually going to input the array, which is called objects. So you want to do so script.objects, but I noticed I already defined it. So you can just get the prefab array and do prefab array right here. And then put a square bracket like this. And then you can put an I value inside of there. Which is basically going to cycle through those different prefabs on every loop. So I just did a command S, but now if we actually want to test this, we should be able to just call the function spawn prefabs once. So I just wrote it at the bottom of the script here, and if I do Control S, nothing happens. So that means I messed something up. Oh yeah, I know what the problem is. It's because the portal, you see the portal right here on the left, it isn't active yet. So you want to actually turn it on, it's disabled. And if you refresh, okay, yeah. Now I think it comes in. Yeah, the current problem is I have this script here that sets the scale to 0. So you just want to comment it out for now because it's currently making the whole thing very small. And now if you do Command S, yeah, there we go. You should have the final portal effect that's here. And once you refresh, you see that you get the furniture that's spawning once here. So yeah, it's just I had disabled a few things on the side here. So now you see the problem is it's only appearing once. So we have the current set of prefabs, but we also have the ones that are appearing once. And to actually make a time looping effect and that you can control is actually pretty tricky on Lens Studio. So that's why we're going to use something called a delayed spawn event. And that's where you want to go right here at the top. So I actually, yeah, I think I'm gonna like kind of speed a little bit through the end. So like, if there's any questions you have afterwards, just let me know. But I just want to at least finish like the mechanic of putting those objects continuously out of the portal, because I think that's something that's like really valuable to use in your projects. And for all the hand interactions, there's actually a script in here that you can check out later on called the gesture detection, and it has all of that you need to basically detect different hand gestures. So there's 5 of them. But for now, we're just going to focus on finishing this portal script here. And so to do that, we're going to create something called a delayed event. I think that's what they're called. And to do that, we're actually going to go up here on this variable I had created, and you're going to do script.createEvent. And you're going to open a bracket here, and you're going to do the quotation marks, and you're going to look for a delayed callback event. And once you have that, you're going to want to call it below and bind it to a function. And so binding it is basically attaching that event to a specific function. So right here, we're going to do spawn delay event dot bind, and then you're going to open some brackets right here. And then to attach that, you're going to write function, and you're going to put the two function brackets as well. And then outside of the function brackets, you're going to open the squiggly brackets. Yeah. And you're going to call the spawn prefab once function right here. So we're going to put that there, and you want to put the semicolon, the commas, that's what they're called, the commas on the spawn prefab once. Once that's done, what that's going to allow us to do is basically every X amount of seconds allow you to call this function at different delays. So we're going to remove the spawn prefab once function here at the bottom because we don't need it anymore. This was just for testing purposes. So when you do Control S, you should see only the default objects appearing. But what you're going to do next is that you're going to actually add this spawn delayed event, and we want to call it once. So to do that, I'm not going to integrate it because I had another integration that's linked to another script, but I won't go over this today. But you're just going to do spawn delayed event here at the bottom, and you're going to do dot reset. And what the reset does is that it allows you to put a time delay for when this is going to get called. So if I put 0, it should get called immediately, that reset event. And what's really neat now is that if you take this spawn delay event.reset and you put it inside of here, the spawn prefab function that we had right there, if you put it at the bottom of the for loop and you change the reset to, let's say, 0.5, once you hit Command S, then it's going to make the furniture spawn repeatedly because it's continuously calling for that delay event to happen over and over again. So it's going to give this really chaotic effect where all of your furniture is going to start popping out. You're going to get this effect that I used in my project where all the furniture kind of chaotically appears. But one thing you might notice right now, especially on some devices, is that there's no object deletion. So this is just creating continuously objects, and it's really lagging my my computer. So I'm just going to pause this for now, and we're actually going to put the destroyer script that's going to allow for these different objects to disappear on the prefabs. And to do that, you're just going to go to your prefabs right here. And yeah, this is not the most efficient way of doing it, but I have this little script called destroyer, which basically has one of these callback events, and it occurs every 6 seconds and destroys the current scene object it's on. So I'm just going to select all of these prefabs. And once you've selected all of them, you can just drag the destroyer script here and drop it on all of the objects. And if that works correctly, it should appear on every single component, every single object, sorry. So yeah, now the thing that you want to do to actually make this work is that you want to hit apply. Because right now the prefab has been modified in the object window, but it's actually not applied to the saved prefab that you have in your resources. So you just want to click this apply button that's here. It's on the inspector and it's in the top right corner. So we're going to just hit apply on everyone. And I don't think there's a shortcut for this. I could be wrong. But yeah, you just hit apply on all of them. And if you go back to your preview window now and you restart the script, you should, if you look for the furniture that gets away the furthest, you should see that it pops out. And you can actually, like later, if you want to make it a little more dynamic, you could make it fade out or you can make it scale out. But right now it's just popping out, it's just destroying those objects. But it should allow you to keep your performance as high as possible. So that's kind of the general gist of how this works. But this is still, though there's still, you know, a few different interactions in here that I haven't really covered. So there's also this little purple dot that you've been seeing since the beginning of the tutorial is actually meant for positioning the portal. So it was something that gets disabled afterwards, but it's a look at direction that I'm using. It's like a little hack to position the portal. So if you want to position the portal, you can basically put that dot where you want the portal to go, and when you tap, it actually positions the portal there. But I don't think I'll have time to go over that interaction, but I can probably send out the final project file later on, and you should be able to play around with it a little bit. But there's also something that's really important for this project is the occlusion for the hands. And it's something that you can see in the preview videos I made. Once I put my hand in front of the portal, it really masks the portal behind my hands and even like the glow that the portal is generating. And for that, well, it's fairly simple, but you can get the asset for the hands on the asset library. But yeah, you can basically add hand tracking in here. And for this, actually, we're using two kinds of hand tracking. And I'll go really briefly right now over the gesture detection. It takes like 2 seconds. But basically, you want to get in your objects window something called the hand tracking, but not in 3D. You want to get the normal one. And you'll see once you do that, it's going to create this orthographic camera setup where, okay, why is that? Yeah, where you're going to get your hand tracking component, which we can see right here. And this component right here is what I use with my other gesture detection script, which is right here. It should be already in your project. And it's a super, well, supposed to be simple script, but it takes the values of like what your hand is. So you have the open hand, you have closed, you have like the horns, index finger, and like a few other gestures. But that's just gonna take those values and send them out as a global variable, which allows you to detect different gestures to do different things. And to do that, it's really easy. So the tracker here, it has an input, and you should be able to get that input in here. And then you should get printed these different gestures from this script. But yeah, I think I might leave it at that because a lot of the different things are, yeah, a little too timely. But yeah, thank you for following along, and yeah, please, if you have any questions, let me know. I'll be sending the full project files afterwards because I know this was like very chaotic to follow. So yeah, just don't hesitate to ask me any questions later on. Thank you.